Breakdown. Hey, if you've ever watched this show before, you know that if you're on video on demand, this part is where I'm going to wait for a couple of people to filter in and to say hi. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to remind you guys of ways that you can check me out. Check me out, twitter.com/lore reloaded. You can also go to facebook.com/lore reloaded, though it's seeming like that is less and less of a really good way to connect with people versus, well, I mean, it's a good messenger, but overall, people generally check me out on Twitter. Trek001 in the house. What is going on? Hope you are well. Captain Jesse1, what is going on with you, good sir? Jonathan Stevie, what's up with you? Timothy Dutton, good morning to you as well, even though it's dark outside. Of course, I got my my co-editor back here with me, working the midnight oil. Got Darian Anderson, Admiral Murphy, the Cool 31, 14K Leom. Yo. What is going on? John Philip Ortega. Hi to you too. Josh Kong, what happened to the STO stream on Saturday? I'll be continuing that this Saturday going forward. I just took a day off from doing it. I'll also have more streams live doing a lot of Star Trek Online, and I'll be playing some other games. So if you haven't checked me out at twitch.com/lore reloaded. And when I'm on here, doing it on both YouTube and Twitch, that's going to be really where we have conversations and stuff. If I'm just doing it on Twitch, I just want to hang out, just be myself. So definitely make sure you have alerts on Twitch. I've decided I'm going to do Twitch for sure. Everybody's more interested in my cat, of course. So before we get started, one other thing I want to let you guys know. If you haven't seen it, today I did a Starship lore on the Prometheus class. And as a part of that, usually I have collectibles from Eagle Moss that I get to take a look at and do a lot of more in-depth. This is one of their collectibles that they sent me. This one I am not as impressed with as I am the others. I don't know if maybe it's because the Prometheus class isn't a hero ship, but there isn't as much detail. For instance, if you take a look at the bottom right here, not really a lot to it as what you see on like the Voyager, or not the Voyager, but the Intrepid or the Defiant. I do like that they have the upper nacelle for the top part when it comes apart. So I don't know. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. So I thought I'd let you guys take a look at that. But today, or tonight rather, I thought I'd do a special episode, not going to be on as long as I usually am, but how do we fix the what's past Is Prologue from Discovery? And I kind of wanted to give my thoughts as I'm now more calm, more a better demeanor, and see what specifically I think they could have done better. And I'd be interested what you guys think, if you guys thought I overreacted, or what you think they could do better. By the way, I want to take a minute. I believe it's Admiral Murphy. Let me double check real quick, because I'm almost 100%, and I know a lot of people hate this because I can sometimes get off on my own bandwagon. Yeah, Admiral Murphy does a series where he does documentaries and stuff, which is pretty cool. And he recently did some stuff with the Drunken Peasants. If you're a big Drunken Peasants fan, he really breaks it down. So when it comes to documentaries, I think he's as in depth as I am. So take a look at his channel, just because I actually enjoy his documentaries. All right, so let's go ahead and break it down and get into what I actually was talking about. I'm going to say hi to Nexus before I do that. So a lot of the things I have an issue with is not necessarily where they were trying to go with the episode itself, not the message they were trying to do, but more how they went about doing it. I think that you can be political. I think that the Next Generation, I think Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, they all did this stuff. They just did it, in my opinion, better. So, how would I fix it? How would I go about doing it? Let's assume, if we're having this conversation, that we want to keep everything everyone else was... if we want to keep everything in the show, that is, we want to have that attack on Trump. We want to show Trump's ideas to be negative. We want to show the current crop, political crop, people who follow Trump, the GOP, as bad. I was trying to think of how I would do this better, and let me give you guys my idea. So, we have the show go, a lot of it's going to be the exact same. I won't change too much about it. Here's what I would change. And it really comes down to how you want to go about doing this. I would probably take out those two statements he does. Make the Empire glorious again. And I don't like you. You're not as good an emperor because you allowed aliens in. What I would do is I would have a standoff between Michael and Lorca. I would have Michael be captured by Lorca because I think that Lorca knows Michael, both versions of her, well enough that he could capture her and figure out where she is. And so now they're having a standoff in the throne room. They're having a conversation. And so at that point, you have Lorca tell everyone else to leave. They're surrounded by guards, surrounded by the security person. I forget her name. She was security in the Prime universe. And, of course, she looks like she doesn't want to. She thinks this is a bad idea. But have everyone leave. And then you just have Michael and Lorca talking. At this point, I think that to make it more clever and to get to the audience you're trying to talk to, make him seem somewhat rational. Have him have good points to actually tempt Michael. So, for instance, she could bring up stuff like, you killed 9 legions, you killed all of these people, and you've been very extreme. Have him try to justify that, saying, it's not something I wanted to do. It's not something that I think should be done. It's definitely something that has to be changed. But in order to do this, this is currently the way things are run. I would even have him try to pretend like he was changed from the Prime universe. But during the conversation, he would still be very anti-alien, very pro-Terran, and very much make the Empire glorious again. Again, not without those words. I might even have a fight between the two, where he's trying to talk about why xenophobia is good. Talking about the Prime universe. Look at the Federation. Look at Starfleet. This diverse group of people, and yet they all disagree. There's all of these issues. There's attacks. They don't get along. Look at what the Vulcans did. You had a Vulcan attack another Vulcan simply because of the diversity. And then look at the Klingons. The Klingons are just one people. They're united, and they're winning if it wasn't for us. Obviously, diversity is weakness. Just look at your own universe. And then from there, have Michael come up, and she just seems aghast, and she says, you can't build a wall around the Terran Empire. It won't work like that. It'll atrophy. You won't, without diversity, you will see horrific echo chambers. You have to have different people with differing opinions. You can't just keep everybody out. And so you have the allusion to the wall. You have an argument that while I think there are some issues with it, it at least brings it in, and it gets the people that you disagree with thinking about it. Does building a wall and stopping diversity counteract or have a negative impact to the actual body? Of course, he can come back and again talk about how you can allow stronger individuals in, you can allow certain different groups in, but you want to keep a lot of the unmentionables out, a lot of the bad hombres. And of course, she again can say, so it's genetics then. And and this is just me trying to, I haven't completely filtered out how I would do it. I'm considering rewriting the entire first season, doing kind of like a lore runner Imperium thing of how I would have done the first season. I don't know, I may or may not, but ultimately, I think you should have point counterpoint with Michael on the edge, and then end it with something that obviously shows he's evil, something that obviously tips his hand. And what that could be quite a few things. Maybe a comment about Saru, how he was using him, or how he thought most of the crew was weak. Something that I would... something that tips his hand. I'd have to consider that. But honestly, I think that would have been better. I think that would have been very Star Trek. I think that would have gotten people to think about it. I think when you look at Deep Space Nine, a lot of the stuff that they did, that's how they did it. The Next Generation did it as well. Voyager, I really can't think of any good examples. I'm sure there are, I just can't think of them. And Enterprise, there are a couple things in Enterprise I liked. But what do you guys think? If they had a standoff where Michael is tempted. Another idea I had is, okay, let's say that we wanted to keep that in, make the Empire glorious again, and, of course, how did he phrase it? You allow too many aliens in. So if we wanted to keep that, let's say that he did that and he kept that in, then we still have the standoff with Michael, and he tries to justify that. He tries to say, look, I'm not saying other people are bad. I'm just saying that the Terran Empire is good, that we need to be our own. We don't need this diversity. We need to make our empire great. That doesn't mean other empires can't be great. The Vulcans can go do what the Vulcans can do as long as they leave us alone. The Andorians can do whatever. But we need to stay homogenous, because look at what we've built if we're just the Terran Empire. And she's starting to show weakness. We can be great again. We once were. So, what do you guys think? And so some of you guys are saying, yeah, it was too one-sided and things. I think there have been points where it's one-sided. I think there are things in Deep Space Nine. I think there are things in Voyager for sure. And there are things in The Next Generation for sure where it's one-sided, especially with religion in The Next Generation. But they do try to justify the bad guys, the bad side to some degree. They have it make sense for the bad side to have the opinions they do. They might not specifically show that it's a good thing, but you could get to the point where you can see why someone would come to that opinion. So anyway, I'm going to start reading what you guys said. That was just my idea of if I was going to rewrite this, how I would do it. Because it's easy to tear things down. I agree with people say, well, it's easy to tear things down, but how would you fix it? What would you have want? What would you have wanted to see? And that's honestly what I would have wanted to see, because that's what they do in Trek generally, before this whole new thing to it. Let's see, Admiral Murphy. Dukat was a great villain because they show his human side, even though he was a bad guy. Yeah, until the end when they made him insane, because the writers realized that people were empathizing with him too much, so they just made him straight up insane, and I hate that they did that. I love Dukat because Dukat is a well-fleshed out character with complete and utterly understandable motivations. When he allied with the Dominion against Starfleet, against the Federation, it made complete sense. The Federation abandoned Cardassia for all intents and purposes. They really did. The Klingons were destroying them. The Cardassia was about to fall in on itself. Children were starving. People were starving. It makes absolute sense that you would ally with the devil to save your people. And I dare say anybody in Dukat's position would have probably done the same. So it's like that. That's a perfect example. Even though, ultimately, it's the bad decision, right? Xavier Gamer, I found the fact that Lorca did tell the crew of Discovery that he admired them all, including the alien first officer, or Food. This is interesting because in real life it's easier to demonize. I just found that to be bad writing. It could have been him being hypocritical and not realizing it. I almost prefer that. I honestly think it's bad writing. I think that they didn't really consider the fact that he was talking to aliens, because he doesn't like aliens. At Lore Reloaded, wouldn't some emergency protocol immediately reinitialize the containment field around the core rather than letting Discovery hit it? Yeah, I don't know. You know, she could have overrode that too. Man, that cat better not. She could have overrode that as well. I'm not as upset about that. Rodby rules a large group of aliens try to immigrate to Bajor, but the Bajorians refuse, citing that they don't have enough resources to support them. It explores both sides of an immigration crisis. I'm sure I've seen Sanctuary, because I've watched Deep Space Nine from start to finish multiple times. I'd have to rewatch it, though, to see where they were going with that. But yeah, there's a good point. That might be an interesting discussion, too. Maybe they're having this back and forth, and he's talking about how cruel and how horrible aliens are. And then she points out, look at Saru. Look at what Saru's done. Do you hate Saru? Do you hate other Alien X? So that could be an interesting point and counterpoint. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Build a wall would just give religious extremists an excuse and prove that they're right about the Western world and just increase their member numbers and cause more damage to the Western world. So, I don't know if I believe that or not, but that would be a good way to do the argument if you really wanted to pull it in. Just, again, change extremist religions with aliens, and you're there. Honestly, I could see Lorca's argument against democracy. It is in human nature for people to rise over others in power, but the idea wasn't well explored. I agree. I think that we as a species always want to look for things that are more powerful than us, things to look up to. I think I'm not going to get too much into it, but I think people who leave religion and become skeptics or atheists or whatever you want to call yourself when you're non-religious will sometimes, hashtag not all, will sometimes replace that with other things because they just want to look up to something. So I do agree that it seems to be in our nature to have a leader or to want to be led. Nexus. I would have avoided the whole political plot. If Lorca wants power, then make him a man that wants power, because ultimately the Mirror Universe Terran Empire was a constant power struggle. I mean, I would have enjoyed that too. It doesn't have to be political, but I'm not against Trek being political or even using current politics, because it has in the past. And that's what I'm saying. Definitely, if you want to look at politics, even current ones, I think there is a way of doing that. I thought, Rodby Rules says, I thought it was a cheap shot trying to make Georgiou likable by making Lorca more evil by him citing a few Trump phrases and spewed anti-immigrant hate speech. Yeah, that's the thing that everyone glosses over, I think. And I think they'll ultimately have her forgiven. She kept people that wanted to rebel against her in the agonizers for a year. A year of that. Right? And she killed people. She ate Kelpians. She was just this horrific dictator. Just a bad, bad, bad person. And ultimately, she's going to be saved. And I really think they're going to try for a redemption arc with her. No Stripe 361. Oh, this is on? This is definitely on. What's going on, Arthur? Yo. It may not be on for all that long. As I said, this is going to be a relatively quick one. Unless you guys want to continue talking. I mean, I guess I could pull up Star Trek Online. We could play and hang out. But I just wanted to more talk about how I would have done it better. Because a lot of people are frustrated with my decision to be an actual person. And to have emotion. Because generally I try to keep that out. Some people have compared the channel to Happy Console Gamer, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think me and him are somewhat on the same page when it comes to what we're trying to do with our channels. I'm not excited about how the season ends. I really think it's going to be time travel reset. I completely agree, Admiral Murphy. I think here's what I think is going to happen, and I hope to God I'm wrong. I hope to God I am wrong. I think that Michael is going to go back to the battle of the binaries. And this is Anti-Trekker's idea, but I'm on board with it. I think it's going to happen. And she's going to stop the entire war. Stop it all from happening. I sincerely... And she's going to get command of the Discovery. Saru is going to be the XO. And she's going to save Georgiou. Honest to God, I think that's what's going to happen. Did you ever watch the show After Trek? I don't watch After Trek because of how political it is. I have no interest in the politics that they do. I have gotten enough. I have gotten enough of that. Sci-Fi Dan, did you check out your Patreon page and see my ideas for you to do more videos? Why Sci-Fi and Sith Dan? Are you talking about patreon.com/lore reloaded, where people can help the channel grow, help the studio, and help me get to conventions so that I can make more stuff for you and just go to the next level? I have not checked that out. I know it's there, and I'm sorry, I've just been pretty busy. Sci-Fi Sith Dan, do me a favor. Go to Facebook, if you have a Facebook. Go to facebook.com/lore reloaded. Send me all your sci-fi stuff there, so I can have it there as well. So I can get back to reading that, because I've lost the page. I was actually reading it, so can you put that back there for me? They really don't have other options. The second the Klingons won, the show is forced to time travel, since not recorded history. They could timey-wimey it. They could try to justify it. But yeah, I don't know how... They would say the Klingons almost won this major war and it never comes up. Yeah. At Lore Reloaded, would you say Georgiou is extremely overconfident? She kept bioweapons on her flagship, thought a handful of troopers would capture Lorca, etc. Yeah, of course. I think that's very Mirror Universe, though. I think Mirror Universe, I think Terrans are very, very overconfident, and I think that's what ultimately destroyed them. I think Spock is an example of this, too. Spock was so overconfident in these new ideas. He was going to make the Federation again, right? And he was so overconfident that everyone was going to like it, that he completely and utterly stripped their ability to defend themselves, and that's what got him killed. I think that it is a Terran thing, and I know he's a Vulcan, not a Terran, but I think it is a Mirror Universe thing and a Terran thing to be overconfident. Absolutely. So I wasn't upset about that. I thought that was actually consistent. Klingons were fanatically changed for the worse to attack Trump supporters, and the Terrans went from Romanesque xenophobes who allowed aliens to be captains to straight-up Nazis who eat aliens to attack Trump. Possibly. Could there ever be a comic series set in the Star Trek Mirror Universe? I think there already is a comic book series. I think they already have a comic book series, and I think they go into the Mirror Universe. I could be wrong about that. But I think they already have a comic. If you guys are watching this and they do, let me know. I need to talk to Fancy Teeth. Fancy Teeth might be able to tell me. I saw a clip and the producer in Lorca deliberately wrote it about current politics. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. That's what... Isaacs is such a good actor. I absolutely love Isaacs. I'd love to meet him. I'd love to talk to him about being Lorca. I'd love to get his autograph, but I can't agree with a thing. Let me rephrase that. I don't agree with the way he goes about doing his public business, which I'm sure he doesn't care about mine, so we're probably even on that. But I think he is a wonderful actor. Oh, sure, I'm up working on my newest video detailing what I think will happen in the last 2 episodes of Star Trek, and now you just go live and start talking about it, jerk. Anti-Trekker, I gave you full accreditation. And more, that's not even what I was sitting here talking about. I was talking about how I would fix what's past Is Prologue. Though you're welcome on if you want to. I figured you were busy. Nexus, did you see my comment on your tweet about the sizes of the Discovery ships? I did not, Nexus. I apologize. Would this iteration of Trek been better if it were set in the Mirror Universe in the first place? I would have loved to seen a Mirror Universe iteration. I think that would have been very interesting. I don't think they'll ever do it, but I think that would be cool. Even Roman emperors were portrayed by their cards. They were. There is the comic series. It's called Star Trek The Next Generation Mirror Broken. See, I knew there was. I knew there was a comic series. I vaguely remembered that. I love Jason Isaacs, and he was he who kept me watching for this long. I agree. At Lore Reloaded, would you be interested in reading a fanfic DS9 set in the Mirror Universe? It would be Mirror Cisco taking over the occupation of Bajor from Deep Space Nine. Spoilers of Deep Space Nine if you haven't seen it, but he's dead per the canon series. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see, I guess. Maybe it's an alternate universe or something like that. I can't. That episode, the more I think about it, that episode could have been so easily saved and the same message given. Well, saved being relative. I would still thought it was a bad episode. I would still thought that was shoehorned in, but I wouldn't have been angry about it. But, it could have been easily done just by having one scene. Take out a couple of this, unnecessary crap and just do that scene. Someone asked, do I agree with SF Debris? Yeah, here it is. No Stripe 361. Do you agree with SF Debris that the series could have been better if it had started on episode 3 and the first 2 episodes had been done later? Me and Anti-Tracker actually talked about that at episode 2. Or when episode 3 came on, actually. No, I'm sorry. And I think that episode 1 and 2 should have been cut into flashbacks. Episode 3, 4, and 5 should have had the flashbacks of episode 1 and 2. And so we're getting snippets after what has happened. Episode 3 is basically when it starts. Episode 1 and 2 is a prologue, for all intents and purposes. Anti-Tracker even said that it was a fan film. I would happen to agree with that. I think that episode 1 and 2 are not necessary, and that they should have been flashbacks. And a lot of that you could have just cut out. A lot of it was unnecessary. You think the Discovery was in a different universe the whole time and now is going between multi-universes throughout the series. That would be... that would explain everything, but it would have made the producers and directors liars, because they said this was Prime Universe. This was when it was happening. But, it would have made them liars. Of course, I don't think they necessarily care about being liars either. So, hold on, guys. Let me make sure... Anti-Tracker doesn't want to get on. It would have made him straight liars. By the way, while we're talking about this, just so you guys know, I'm debating doing some fan stuff where you guys can come on, chat with me, and hang out. There's some inherent risks with that, especially if I do it on YouTube. But I don't know that I necessarily... Yeah, Josh Kong, the teaser at the end shows that the Feds lost 1/3 of their fleet and 20% of their territory. If you look at that map, that is 10 times more than 20% of their territory. In fact, me and Anti-Tracker got into it because I thought that... I didn't hear that, or I thought I heard it wrong, because I thought they were saying they only had 20% left. Because 80% of their territory is gone, according to that map. Let's see. Nexus. One of the Trek Yards episodes shows the size comparison of Star Trek Discovery ships and Kelvin ships, and Discovery is the size of the Kelvin timeline Constitution class. I do remember seeing that episode. And what's funny is that the Constitution class was supposed to be this huge, massive ship. And it was supposed to be a big deal. I think it's the Constitution class. The Enterprise, when it was first seen in the original series, is supposed to be this huge ship in comparison to all other ships. And then the Discovery is like that. Rod B. Rules, I thought the map showed complete Klingon annexation of the Federation. Yes, that's exactly what it looked like. It looked exactly like that. Josh King says, in reference to that, it could just be that particular sector or quadrant. I think what happened is that the script writers and the visual effects people didn't talk to each other. Isn't about the Constitution, Anti-Tracker, in the last episode there is no Starfleet communications at all. They said they lost the war. The map was completely Klingon. Yeah, I mean, and you and me talked about that. By the way, Anti-Tracker, I got Skype if you want to hit me on that and you want to come on. I agree. I think that the people who wrote the script and the people who did the well, no. Yeah, I don't... That's confusing, because they do say that, don't they? Huh. I'm a little behind on the lore of why the Klingons look the way they are in the show compared to the original Klingons. Well, this is really interesting, David Whalen. So, I think... so why do the Klingons look different in Discovery than they do in the original series and in the in the Next Generation. It's complicated, so you need to stick with me here for a second. Okay, are you ready? Because you're going to have to listen. Are you guys listening closely? Because it's convoluted. They don't give a damn. The writers and the producers don't give a damn about anything outside of Discovery. So, and if you need me to run that back, I can explain it to you again. If you need me to, just let me know. I think they will go back in time a bit, and the Klingons will have 20%. Yeah, they may. Anti-tracker. Von Miller says it's artistic license. That is true. It could be artistic license. Nexus was sitting here saying, I'm ready to agree, and then he agreed with me. David Wayland. So basically they ruined Star Trek. They didn't. So here's my thing. I don't think they ruined Star Trek. I don't think... I think it insults Star Trek. I don't consider it to be very Star Trek. But to say they ruined Star Trek is like the people who say J.J. Verse ruined Star Trek, right? I don't think they ruined it. I think they changed it. And whether that change is good or bad is going to be up to the person and the people who watch it. When you went from the original series to the Next Generation, they changed Star Trek. The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine changed Star Trek. Deep Space Nine to Voyager changed Star Trek. Enterprise changed Star Trek. So it's always changing. It's just how much of a change, and do most people like it or don't. Rodby rules, I could see that the Federation hold up in one or two systems, and that there are too many ships in those systems for the Klingons to conquer outright without suffering massive casualties. That could be it, but again, it seems like this is all inconsistent. Do they have 20%, or did they just take over 20%? Why isn't... an anti-tracker, I'm glad you're here. I would love to get your opinion on this. Someone made the point, and I forget when, but they made the point that maybe when the ISS Discovery came over, so the Mirror Universe Discovery, they allied with the Klingons, which I know they're xenophobic, but just hear me out. They allied with the Klingons and helped them win the war, which is why no one's answering the Discovery, and we see those scenes where they're beaming on and they're ready to take over the ship or whatever because of what happened with the ISS, the Mirror Universe Discovery. Doesn't make a ton of sense with the xenophobia, but it would kind of make sense why Starfleet wouldn't answer them and why it looks like they're coming over guns a-blazing. The Klingons did some genetic stuff in Enterprise and made them look like humans in the original series. Then go back to look in the Next Generation. Enterprise made sense, then blown out of space. Enterprise made it make sense, then blown out of space. Okay. Left thinking we're supposed to sympathize with the Terran Empire. Not sure how to feel about that. Blasted Heath says he's left thinking we're supposed to sympathize. I think we're supposed to sympathize with Giorgio, because I think they want to bring back Giorgio, and I think they need her to be a good person, even though the implications of her being a good person. And then, Robbie Rules. I brought that up. So Robbie Rules, you were the one to bring up maybe the Discovery was the bad guy. Anti-Tracker says that would be like the KKK moving to Africa to stage an invasion of New York, maybe, I guess. Yeah, from the xenophobia part, I get that, because I don't know. It's weird. They've really done some weird stuff that's hard to explain. And because of this magical reset, if you guys have noticed, I haven't really been doing any real solid breakdowns or information on Discovery. And this is part of why. This is why I'm kind of not doing anything with them, really, because I need to see how the season ends, because they might have a reset button. They might have stuff that doesn't make sense. And so from a lore perspective, from people who are really deep into looking at the lore, it's very hard to do anything with this because you don't know where they're going with it. Admiral Murphy at Lore Reloaded, I heard an interesting argument. Enterprise should have tried this change in formula when the franchise got tired, instead of now over a decade without a show. I don't think this is a good way for Star Trek to go. I think Discovery is a bad idea, and it was a bad way for it to go. Sometimes you're just out of ideas and out of good stories to tell. Sometimes a story, a genre, a franchise has to end. And while that's sad, it's necessary instead of trying to milk as much money out of it as possible. I think this is a bad way to go. I think that this was a mistake. That's my opinion. People disagree with it, obviously. And I think that if this is the best we can do, we're running out of ideas for Star Trek, and maybe the franchise has run its course. And that's okay. It's okay for things to run their course. Josh King at Lore Reloaded. The problem with the ISS Disco theory is that why didn't Cornwell beam on some sort of security team rather than herself? Maybe it's just, well, first off, the same reason that when they beam down to planets or they go on missions, you always have the senior staff go and not the specialists who are trained. In every Star Trek, you have the captain going when really it's the first officer, or not even the first officer, but trained people should go. That's for budget and because you want the main people there. But if we're trying to bring it into a lore perspective, maybe they just don't have the people anymore. Maybe they just don't have the resources, and that's why she went over. Blasted Heath saying that I'm speaking heresy by saying maybe Star Trek should end. Schnick, Star Trek's future was with the fans, but CBS ruined that. I'd rather have Axanar than Discovery at this point. I really liked Prelude to Axanar. I don't think that they're going to have a battle at Axanar, to answer the question that came up. I think that the Prelude to Axanar story would have been a lot more fun. Would have been a lot more interesting. I would have enjoyed seeing the life and times of what's the captain's name? Whoever. I would have enjoyed that. So, with as much Star Trek online, with all of its wars, does make some sense, but how does Discovery affect the 25th century with all of its tech? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Guys, relax. We still have Orville, says Xavier Gamer. What's going on, ZE Film Productions? Hope you're doing well. Sci-Fi Sith Dan. I saw that, and I may hit you up if I do have questions. Definitely. Admiral Murphy. I didn't care for Axanar, but killing that CBS shot itself in the foot with a good deal of fans. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to get into the background of Axanar because I found that I don't necessarily completely... I find a lot of fans disagree with where I come down on Prelude to Axanar. And, I actually like the people at Prelude to Axanar. I've talked to them. What's his name? The guy who was over Prelude. There's a lot of controversies there. I don't necessarily disagree with what CBS did. And I know a lot of people get upset about that. I do wish CBS had said, you know what? We're going to take that idea and we're going to run with it. But, them coming down on the Axanar Studios or whatever they were called, I think CBS was in the right. I know you guys are going to get mad about that, but it's just the truth. And that's me defending CBS. I don't think CBS does anything right when it comes to copyright generally. But on that, I kind of tend to agree with them. At Lore Reloaded, could please explain why the Emperor, felt that she should go down fighting, then take back her title position. She freaking killed Lorca and ended the rebellion. So here's my thing. I kind of understand where she was coming from with that. She was dethroned. She was dethroned publicly. Most all of her people were killed, and she had to get a traitor to help her retake the throne. Even if she could... And she's about to lose the ship. Because remember, she agreed that the ship could be destroyed. I don't know that as an emperor she could come back from that. It makes her look incredibly weak. Especially if she was the only one to survive. I can kind of see why she thinks that her days are off on that. She comes up too incredibly weak. So some of you guys are asking about this. I'll talk about it to a small degree. And, the people at Axanar have a different opinion of it. Alec Peters, that's his name. But why wouldn't CBS, where was it? Why wouldn't CBS not just buy rights from him to get to make it? Because they own the rights. That's the whole point to that when it comes to Axanar. Axanar didn't own any of the rights to Star Trek. It wasn't derivative enough, really, to be a different property. And they were trying to sell and make money off of it to make their own stuff. I honestly don't want to get into the argument. I do think CBS was in the right on that. And if they had every right to take that idea and go with it without giving anything to Peters. Peters didn't create Star Trek. He didn't create the 4 Years' War. There was nothing derivative about it. And so, again, I like Prelude to Axanar, and I would have wanted them. I do want them to work with Peters, but if you look at it from a legal and logical standpoint, I think they were in the right. I think current Star Trek problems is it's trying to be too topical and political. Not every episode needs to engender some social change or discussion. You know what The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine did really well? They wrote Star Trek stories first, and then took their messages and incorporated it into those. What Discovery does is it looks at the politics it wants to say and tries to write a Star Trek story around that. That's the difference. The original series was extremely political, I agree. And I think that sometimes they had their foibles with that, but it was nowhere near what we saw with Discovery. You should talk to Anti-Trekker about that. He is a huge The Original Series fan, knows it backwards and forwards way better than I do. Feed says, we see this time and time again. Fans who would love to make material and companies could bring them into the fold, but they ignore these people over and over. I agree. I think they do that. Axanar was clearly in the right. You cannot just make a new episode of a show and call it your own. You would need to pull a Seth MacFarlane, change it just enough to not be Star Trek. I think when you say that, CBS was right, Anti-Trekker. CBS was clearly in the right, yeah. But I agree. But and that's the thing with Axanar. Not only did they make basically another show, another Star Trek show, they also try to make enough money off of that to build their own studio and then make their own IP off of the money of the Star Trek show. You just can't do that. I think they had an awesome idea. Again, I hate that I have to go back and forth on this. Prelude was excellent. And I look forward to Alex Peters actually doing the next 15-minute shows. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to break it down if I can. I'm trying to figure out how to do a breakdown of Axanar. David Wayland. So, do you like Discovery or is it meh? Discovery is not a show, in my opinion. Discovery is not a show worth watching. It's not worth any money that you could pay for it. If you see it on basic cable, you should turn it. It insults the Star Trek franchise, in my opinion, and it's more interested in telling you about the politics of the writers and the actors than it is of writing anything good. And it does it in a way that is infuriating. It will give you a couple of shows that are built up that are done really well so that it can then just stick a message in your face and then say to hell with everything else. It is the epitome of how you lie to someone in a series form. Nexus. It's horrible. I guess you're saying what Axanar did, and you can't do that, what Axanar did, but CBS insulted the fans more with their fan film rule. Yeah, CBS completely overreacted. I have to deal with CBS stupidity, and I think part of it is because of that. CBS, all of the videos I will stand behind are fair use. Anti-Tracker's the same. All of the videos he does are fair use. I would say that in a court of law. But CBS, because they have more money than God, will sit there and bully small channels. They have taken thousands upon thousands of dollars out of my pocket. Thousands of dollars. All of the early Dominion War series right now are making money for CBS. Multi-million-dollar company has to steal thousands of dollars from a small YouTube channel that relies on this channel to make money to put food on put food on his kids' table from a multi-million-dollar company. They completely overreacted. They completely overreact on YouTube. And they did treat Peters wrong, I think, assuming that we completely believe Peters' side, which I don't see why we wouldn't. They are too vague, and they should just be honest about what that you can and can't do. Oh, David Wayland. Go to YouTube, type in Prelude to Axanar, and you can find it there. It's still up. I go watch it. Tell him Lord Reloaded said hi. It's an excellent piece of fan fiction. I'm pretty literal. Below average 355. I'm pretty liberal, but I just can't stand these recent Discovery-esque shows. It's fine to have a message, but it's just so ham-fisted that it makes me cringe. I agree. I'll tell you what, No Stripe 361. You'll see the day when they demonetize any criticism. If it's YouTube demonetizing, there's not really a lot that I can do. But if CBS attempts to ever do, if I do a video and I use none of their stuff and it's just like me talking, like right here, oh man, that's worth going to court. I'll waste all my money doing it. That is worth going to court. Wayland Axanar was good, very good. Wayland Axanar was good. React, copywriting React. Don't know what that means. Oh, React, the company, copywriting React. Yeah, that was silly. Anyone looking forward to the Star Trek Discovery episode where it turns out the Klingons interfered in Federation elections? That would make me laugh. Okay, if they did that, I'll be honest, I would laugh a little bit. They'd move me a little bit back towards them. Yeah, I'm more of a progressive, but I hate identity politics and some of the Discovery stuff. Lore Reloaded. Let's see. Michael Spillman. LOL. Axanar is... Yes, Wayland. Yeah, it is. I'm going to have to look it up for you. Prelude to Axanar. Sorry for the typing, guys. I know it's really loud. It's right here. As soon as I typed in Prelude to Axanar, it pulls up. Here, I'll put it in the chat for you. Boom! There you go. So, do you guys have any questions? Anything else you want to move from? Because we'll probably be ending it a little bit early. I am going to do lore in the past coming up tomorrow morning. It used to be lore in the morn, but now it's lore in the past. Because I'm doing it for people on the other side, and technically it's morning for them, but it's morning for me, but it's for them, and it's because it's in the past, yada, yada, yada. As the mighty Jingles was talking about using soundtracks, it's worth more money for these companies to claim everything, rather be honest and let fans do where they stand. Yeah, there's a lot of money in it. Honestly, I don't think CBS would push back if I called their bluff, but I'm not really necessarily right now in a position where I want to call their bluff. I will, in fact, be redoing the entire Dominion War series. Starting on my year... So, when I actually got... So when the channel started blowing up, that's when the Dominion War series started. So a year from that, so when it becomes a year, in I think November, or maybe right before November, when it's been a year, I'm going to completely revamp the Dominion War series, take those down, and do my own stuff so I can actually start making money from that, because it's my hard work. And I'm going to take, because I made a lot of mistakes. I still make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But there's a couple of things I'd love to correct out of that series. And so I'm actually looking forward to that, because I'm going to redo it and make it look a lot better. And that's what I actually was just talking about, John Phillip. Will you be continuing your... Oh, no, that's different. Will you be continuing your Triumphant Dominion videos? Yeah, that's coming out Friday. Next video for that's coming out Friday. That's going to be the conclusion video. So I'm going to need people to either do a poll and vote or to let me know what they do. But the fan fiction that I'm doing of the Triumphant Dominion, the conclusion to that is on Friday. I think Anti-Trekker has the idea about how they will reset before Season 2 is spot on, except I think they will drag out Ash and he will make a plea to Takuvma. Maybe. We'll have to see. Lore Reloaded. Any idea when you'll be doing the Stargate videos? You asked me that. Should be... I keep saying the month that people ask me, but it's really soon. I just want to make sure I have that down. I really got burnt on the last Stargate episode I did, so I want to make sure I have that pretty down, but it'll be soon. Will you be doing the Dederadex class lore video? Trek Yards did good, but a different outlook would be nice. I'm doing all Star Trek. I'm doing all Star Trek ships. So yeah, I'll be doing every ship that you can find in the Star Trek series, both canon, beta, and in the books and stuff. I'm doing them all. And I'll be doing Doctor Who videos as well. Bad Wolf Gamer. Yeah, actually, Eagle Moss... I'm doing this regardless, but Eagle Moss Collectibles is going to be sending me some Doctor Who stuff, and I'm going to be doing some videos on that. So it'll be interesting. Doctor Who is kind of like Stargate, but worse because they don't care about consistency. They don't care about... now, let me rephrase that. That was really poorly put. Stargate cares about consistency. Doctor Who is hard to do because of timey-wimey. They don't care about consistency. Things always change. I missed the whole line when Lorca said, "Make Empire glorious again." I think I blocked it out. Really helped out. Yeah, it would. Honestly, it went all downhill from that point on. At Lore Reloaded, both you and Anti-Trekker should discuss and dissect the Tantalus field device. That'd be interesting. If Anti-Trekker's up for it, yeah, we can discuss that. Now, drinking game. Take a shot every time Laura says Star Trek. That is how you'd black out. Yeah, a lot of people get upset about that. I've just always said it that way. It's part of the accent. It's part of what everybody said. I mean, you guys can get mad at it all you want. But it's just the way. I go out of my way to try to change it, but it is what it is. Apparently I say equinox wrong, too. Apparently it's not equinox, it's equinox. I love it. A lot of people say I look like an idiot and I'm not intelligent because I say names incorrectly. And I don't know what I'm talking about, which is just one of the funnest fallacies. I'm a German, so it'd take a lot to put me down. I bet I could do it if you're doing it based on when I say Star Trek. It's definitely equinox. Doctor Who isn't that hard to understand. Just don't think about it too much when timey-wimey stuff comes up. Here's the thing. This channel is dedicated to lore and alpha canon. So it's dedicated to attempting, I always have issues with it. But it's trying to get it right. And you can't get it right when they don't care. When every literal video or episode completely counteracts the other one. So when I do a video, I have 1,000 people saying no, because they're not this. I like the way that he says shields. Like Picard says, raise the shields. I say shields wrong? That's how you say shields. I say steel wrong. Not steel. Yeah, steel image. A steel image. Still image. I was a Doctor Who fan during Tom Baker's time frame. You have to pronounce every correct nowadays? Yeah, I got to protect everything. Have you done the ship class Acura yet? David Whalon, I have not. In fact, there is a poll that just went up today. If you would like me to do the Acura class, go to my community tab. Click on Lore Reloaded, go to the channel, go to community tab. You're going to see a poll there. It's between the Bird of Prey and the Acura class. So you need to go vote if you want me to do the Acura class next. The Great Time War was amazing, and I learned quite a bit from it. Well, I'm glad you liked it. Doctor Who needs a proper canonist, unlike Moffat, who screwed around with everything since 2010. I didn't hate Moffat. I liked some of his stuff. I'm looking to binge a new sci-fi series, probably similar to DS9. Any suggestions? I would suggest Firefly. I would suggest Stargate, Babylon 5. I've heard a lot of good things about The Expanse. I've only seen a little bit of it. What I've seen seems promising. Yeah, all you 63 people. Why aren't we smashing the like button? What's up with that? Nobody smashes my like button anymore. Nobody loves me. There was also another show that it's not like DS9. It's as far away from it as you can get. It's called, let me see. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's called Incorporated. And I really liked Incorporated on the Sci-Fi, SYFY. It is so drastically different than Deep Space Nine, though you may not enjoy it. Akura. Is that what I'm saying? The Akura? It's a Akura class. Admiral Murphy. It was better than the last 2 years. Oh, you're talking to somebody. Why you guys got to be talking to other people? At Lore Reloaded, have you thought about doing a lore breakdown of the Dungeon battle in The Expanse? I don't know enough about The Expanse. I am not going to touch another battle breakdown unless I've seen a significant amount of the canon of the series. I'm not doing that again. I agree. I was happy to see the Clara era end. Man, I was happy to see the Clara era end too. Clara is the absolute worst. I tell you what, I will watch Star Trek Discovery Michael every day of the week, and twice on Fridays before I have to ever watch a Clara episode again. Just horrific. Horrific, Mary Sue. I mean, just bad. It is just bad. You want to see me get passionate? Let's talk about how much Clara sucks. Would you ever do a breakdown of ancient Trek civilizations? I would. I'm going to be doing F.U. Clara was gold next to my... No, she wasn't. She wasn't. Clara was horrible. Would you do a breakdown of ancient Trek civilizations? I'm going to be doing a breakdown of all the civilizations of Romulans, everything. And depending on how popular that series is, if people like me breaking down the governments and the Romulans, the Vulcans, everything like that, then I may go into the ancient civilizations. But I'd first have to see how people like me doing that. How often do you check your Patreon page? Because I like to talk to me after a few minutes of post or... I try to watch. I watch it every so often. I try to watch it almost every day. I haven't responded to you, and I apologize for that, and I will take care of that. The only episode Clara was great in was the episode that it turns out she wasn't Clara, the crazy Dalek. That's funny. Hey, Laura, can Michael defeat a Galaxy-class starship with an O-berth? She can't, but you'll never see Michael on an O-berth because that would actually make her inferior. It is impossible. It is literally like two magnets upside down that push each other away. She literally couldn't be on an O-berth. I know everyone compares you to him, but I'd love to see you do a Fallout lore episode with Oxhorn. I'd be open to it. You should tell Oxhorn that. You should send him a message and let him know. Yeah, you know what's interesting is even though I do stuff like this and you can see my face and I'm obviously not Oxhorn, I still have people that to this day believe that this entire channel is like a relaxed channel. It's like his dirty secret because they think I honestly don't see me thinking about him. I honestly don't see... People think I'm him, my voice is him, and I don't hear it, is what I meant to say. Look, Burnham can beat a Universe-class starship with an NX. She could. What would happen if Michael and Chuck Norris met? They'd probably have Clara, and that's how Clara actually came to being. If you put... That's how you get O-berth to be a flagship. Is you put Burnham on it. A decent video idea might be to line up contact with alien races that haven't yet been covered in the series. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. I don't know. That's an interesting idea. I have to think about that. Chuck Norris versus Q. If you guys haven't seen it, a really funny video is Chuck Norris versus Abe Lincoln, epic rap battles. Just funny. No, Xavier Gamer was talking about Michael Burnham versus Clara, what would happen. Xavier Games says Clara would die anti-tracker. No, you would just have the Doctor, who is renowned, who doesn't kill. It's his one rule, kill for her, like he did in the series. Because screw the Doctor's character and everything that's ever been put into his past. We got a Mary Sue to protect. I know you touched on it already, but what's your darkest thoughts on the Star Trek Enterprise finale? Have I ever talked about this? I think the Enterprise finale was disrespectful to the Enterprise series. I think that if you watched SF Debris, he said one of the theories was that someone was going to say computer in program, and that was going to be Enterprise's legacy. And I think that's kind of consistent. I don't like the way they did it. I understand where they were trying to go with it, and I guess that's kind of cool that Enterprise was to impact Riker and make him make the right decision in a critical part of the Next Generation. But really it just kind of highlighted how the Next Generation generally was far superior than Enterprise. And I think that it was disrespectful. And I don't think Thomas Frakes should agree to it. And it sucked. Let's end on this. SF Debris had a really clever idea that I liked for the ending of Enterprise that explains everything. But before I get into that, Jackson Kennedy, have you ever watched Andromeda? If you did, do you like it? I've watched a lot of it. I haven't watched the end season. People say the end season kind of sucked. And I even did a recent video on it with a breakdown of the Nietzschean Rebellion. So you should go into my videos and take a look at that. Now, SF Debris had an idea to pull Voyager and Enterprise together and explain all the issues we have with Enterprise, especially with it not being seen in the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, yada. And so, the way he wanted to do it was they had this whole time war going. Anti-Trekker's leaving. See you, Anti-Trekker, brother. They had this entire time war. So, make that more of a focus. Make this time war a big deal. And so ultimately, the way the Time War ends is that, and again, you pull Voyager into it. So you have Captain, the Admiral, right? Admiral Janeway. And she is looking on Earth. And if you remember the finale, you see Deep Space Nine, or not Deep Space Nine, you see Voyager coming across the planet and everything, right? So instead of that, you have Admiral Janeway. She's looking onto Earth. And instead of Voyager, you see a Borg cube. And then when you take a closer look at Earth, Earth has been completely and utterly assimilated. And they've lost the battle. And by this time, Admiral Janeway has still made the tech that she has. She still made all of these ways to fight the Borg, but she was too late. So she attempts to go back in time to talk to her former self to give the tech to prevent this from happening. And this isn't exactly SF Debris, but you get the idea. She is stopped by the Time Police or whatnot, or the Time Police decide to let her do it, the Time Agents. But in order for that to occur, you bring it into the Time War with the Enterprise. Ultimately, the Enterprise goes up against the big bad, the Unknown Man, destroys his base or something, and they all die and are removed in the process. And you tie that all together. She's allowed to go back in time, but for that to have occurred, the Enterprise would have had to give their lives, and never, they were heroes, but no one would ever know because they'd be erased from time. I forget the exact way he did it. If you go and watch SF Debris' video on the finale of Voyager, he explains it a lot better than I just did. But I think that would have been interesting. I think it explains everything. I think while it would suck and it could be looked at as disrespectful to say that it never happened, I think that would be a lot better. And I think there's something about tying those two things together. It explains how she's able to go back in time, isn't stopped by the time agents, and and you have the NX-01 Enterprise give their lives, give everything that they were to be completely erased from time to save the universe. How cool would that be? I'm about to end this anyway, Xavier Game. Xavier Game, your night lore. Got to hit the hay. Need to wake up at 5 a.m. What's your regular streams during the week? I do the Geek Breakdown Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Star Trek Online gameplay, on Saturday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sundays, of course, the post show for Discovery, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you are on the other side of the world, though, Tuesdays, tomorrow, I do it in the mornings at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I do that for you. That is literally 12 hours from now. So in 12 hours from now, I'll be doing another episode, and that's for people who can't stay up for the late night stuff. Star Trek Online is not considered canon. Tyrannosaur, kind of like a Year of Hell Voyager ending? Yeah, somewhat. Do you think that Burnham started the Section 31? I don't. I would have loved for Lorca to be a part of Section 31. But on that, guys, I think I am going to end it here. This was just me somewhat talking about it. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Tell all your friends about this channel. I have a goal of hitting... I would love to get to, 40,000. Well, we'll talk about that later. Guys, thanks so much. Tell all your friends about it. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next Lore Reloaded.